Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay at home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight, got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet, cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Welcome back to Home Dad Chat, where we decided to hit record early. So it is recording on Tuesday, 2/22/22. I was just saying,
Palindrome.
I know palindrome. I'm not really big on that. I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter. I'm not a big math guy, so not a big deal for me.
What about words like taco cat?
Taco, goat cheese,
Taco
pizza.
cat. Taco cat is taco cat backwards. It's a palindrome.
Well, okay. But I'm talking about the game Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza, which if you have never played that game, you should get it because your family would probably love it.
Okay, I'm gonna write that down. But
It's a card game, and
I
you have to put cards down, and as you put them down, you have to say the order: taco, cat, goat cheese, pizza. So the first person puts down taco. If the card is not a taco, then the next person goes, and if it's cat, then and he puts the card down and it's a cat, then everybody has to slap down on the cat. And the last person that puts their hand on the pile gets all those cards. And you want to be the person that loses all your cards first. And
okay.
there are also gorillas, and I think it's gorillas and beavers, I think. And the gorillas, you have to pound your chest, and the beavers, you have to do something else or whatever. But yeah, it's pretty. Oh, and there's a narwhal as well, so you got to do the narwhal. Put your hand up. So
yeah,
and then
cool.
And then slap the card. So it's got a lot of motion to it. You can lose a finger really easily, and if like you're a woman with like diamond ring or whatever, you take that off because you're going to injure yourself or someone else. So
or a man.
Yeah,
just saying.
Yeah, you can do that too.
Come on, men can wear rings.
I didn't say they couldn't. Most men don't wear one with a protruding diamond.
Let's start just like no.
Yeah. But
well,
regardless,
doesn't wear one either. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
But regardless of that, with it being Taco Tuesday, I know that's your favorite, one of your favorite days of the week. I said that eating 22 double tacos in 22 minutes, and you were like, "What's a double taco?" And a double taco to me is you've got it's usually a hard shell taco wrapped in a soft shell taco that has cheese in the middle of it, and then you put all this stuff in the what I mean, like all the fixings inside. So
that all sounds great. Yeah. that's fantastic. Does Taco Bell have these? Because I'm not going to make those until I've had a professional make them for me.
I believe that's a Taco Bell creation, if I'm not mistaken.
Nice.
So it might be like the crunchy gordita. No, that's not it. I don't remember what it is. I know, I'm pretty sure Taco Bell's made that before. So if they have it, well, then maybe I need to go buy me a Taco Bell franchise. Anyway, oh gosh,
gordita is one of my favorite words, though.
Gordita. Yeah,
because it means a little fat girl, and it
does really.
Gordita is, gordo is fat. I don't know all the but gordito is a little fat boy, a little chubby boy. And my second wife always used to say that because she was a little chubby girl. And she would say, "Because I'm gordita." And I'm like, "What? What does that even mean?" She goes, "You'll find out." I'm like, all right, yeah, and it does. Little fat girl. So
interesting.
I love it. So
that's funny.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
My stupid fact of the day.
Hey, it works. I like it.
Can't share it with the kids. So
I heard a stupid fact of the day. Did you know that for like 10 or 15 years there was a man in Florida who was wearing he was wearing shoes with like these oversized like penguin prints underneath, like penguin feet prints underneath it, and was walking the beaches of Florida. And for like 10, 15 years, these like scientists were trying to track down where this giant penguin was coming from. And eventually like they ended up figuring it out that it was this guy pulling the fast one on him the whole time, but it was pretty comical.
I did not know that, but I love this man and I hope someday to meet him. because he has kids, because there's no way that he wasn't a dad doing that.
He was an older guy. Yeah, I'm sure he did.
Trolling everybody just like dads do. That's perfect.
It was pretty funny. And my wife and I have an expression for this when news comes out of Florida anytime something crazy, because there's always kinds of crazy stories, is what the Florida.
Yeah. Well, Florida man is a known problem. I mean, he's have been in some news articles, that's for sure. I've seen so many memes about Florida man.
Well, there's a country radio station up here that does what the Florida news. So
doesn't surprise me. They are their own realm down there for sure.
Very true. Very true. Hey, by the way, did you catch any of the recording of the show last week?
No, I have not yet.
No, because I put a commercial in there that I did.
Now, I did hear the commercial.
You did get to hear the commercial?
Not in the podcast yet.
Cool.
Yeah. I heard it.
It's got some tweaking to it for me. What'd you think? What'd you think of it?
It sounded really cheesy.
Awesome.
Love you, man. But
you're okay. Do you know what the background music was?
No,
it's from like everybody's favorite show. Kids show.
Star Trek?
No, kids show.
Everybody's favorite show.
Like the only kids show that parents love watching with their kids.
Peacemaker. Oh wait,
not
no.
Peacemaker. No. Oh my gosh!
I love watching the opening episode of that opening dance. Man.
Oh my gosh!
No. Like I don't know what's going on with all that stuff and whatever he's doing, but they're all seriously stone-faced dancing.
Yeah.
No matter what I'm doing in the world, I would stop and watch that because it's like a train wreck.
That is a cold intro if I ever did see one.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. But anyway.
No, man, it's from
everybody's favorite show with their kids. Okay, tell me.
Bluey.
Now, see, my kids are too old for that. I don't have any kids that watch Bluey. That's the thing. And no offense to Bluey. I've seen some amazing things from that show and little snippets and stuff. I know it does great stuff for dads and kids and parents, but I never watched it. So,
well, anyway, it was my first go at it. It'll probably get tweaked some more as time goes on, and I find maybe different background music and maybe somebody else other than me to read it. Well,
our resident David Stanley, he's the man, right? He's the guy.
He's definitely one.
He'd have time, man. I don't know if we could afford him though.
I could farm it out to Tony Conrad too. He's a voice of the radio. He might be willing to pull it off too. So
we get just call in some favors to get somebody to record.
I think I wouldn't mind. Get David to do one, Tony to do one, maybe get Art Eddie to do one. That would be pretty wild too.
Yeah,
he's got a voice for radio, so.
He does. He's got a great voice.
So that
his podcast has been, his last couple of episodes has been very good.
Yeah.
He's been doing good stuff.
And we'll just keep trying to get Rick Moranis to do it too. I'm just kidding.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes, man.
Rick,
let's get
buddy.
him. Either that or Ryan Reynolds. I'll take either one.
Oh crap. Yeah. If you swing that, you just let me know. I'm going to just sit here and fanboy. I'll mute my mic and just listen to that dude. He's hilarious.
He's
Free
taken.
Guy? Have you seen?
I haven't
Free
seen
Guy?
it. No, it just came out on Disney Plus. I haven't had a chance to go check it out.
You need to watch that.
Oh, I'm excited for it.
Oh my
the
God.
previews look
It is
amazing.
Really, and especially me as a gamer.
Yeah.
Because I've been gaming since there were games. Basically, my kids say that I probably had mammoth bone dice when I was a child.
Yeah.
But all of the times that I've been in MMOs and just playing with all these other people and everything that they put into that is just a lot of fan service.
Okay.
But man, my favorite scene, I think, of the last 12 months of any film, TV series, anything that I've seen was in that film.
Really?
It was in Free Guy. Yeah.
Very
and when
cool.
you see it, when you get it, it's because I'm just going to let you watch it. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody.
Hey, don't do
But
that.
when it happens, it was thrilling. My kids loved it. They went crazy when it happened. I'm like, what? What did it? Oh my. And then, it's amazing. I'm going to wait. I'm going to give you a week. And then next week, maybe we'll talk about it.
I like that. I can do that.
Fantastic.
Now, here's
really
what I got to know though. So to me, it seems like a version of Ready Player One in a different kind of light, but similar in context as far as like gamer and that kind of thing. But what would you say as far as like my kids, they're 6 and 9 now. They have seen they've seen Ready Player One, the movie. Is this I mean, it's got Ryan Reynolds in it, so I'm a little leery just because of his stuff with Deadpool. Does it fit into the context like that, or is it is this something that I can watch with my kids as well, because they like video game stuff too?
I honestly think yes, you could watch it with your kids. Now, I don't know your kids, all right, and I don't know what your boundaries are with certain things, right? So each parent is going to be different for how they'd raise their kids. My kids are 9 and 7, the youngest two, that is, no problem at all.
Okay.
But but saying that, I am probably more lenient with a lot of things with my kids because they've just been ready for it, you know?
Right. Well, I'm trying to look it up here on my phone really quickly too, because I was curious of a couple of things with it. You said it just came out. Like, where is this thing at?
Yeah,
I thought I saw it in the banner at one point, but come back. Where did it go? It was in the banner today. I saw it going across, but
I don't know, man.
It's like hiding.
A banner.
Well, like, okay, so it's PG-13. Okay, so it's got like probably like one really bad cuss word in it, because that's all you can really have in a PG-13 movie, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's only language, really. There is violence, but it's all pretty obviously. Is it all
video gamer violence?
Yeah. I mean, you see, well, I mean, like if you ran around in an MMO or a big, looter shooter where there's a bunch of like where it's multiplayer, and you see guys like teabagging, dead guys or whatever, that kind of thing happens.
Yeah.
But it's kind of in the background, so it's not really like there. But the players, the quote unquote real people, are running around, and you'll see them just rob or shoot, the NPCs. That's what the NPCs are there for. A lot of people.
Sure.
So
this actually doesn't come out until
running
the 23rd.
bags of XP.
So that's why I haven't got to see it yet.
23rd.
Yeah. So it's not even available on Disney Plus. Well, it will be by the time this airs. So, but that's cool. And it's under 2 hours. That's also good, because anything more than that, that's a bit much for our kids to sit.
Yeah. It takes a bit. And
that's cool. Yeah.
Channing Tatum is in it, right?
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that'll get my wife watching it probably.
It's I don't know. He's being really goofy, but it's perfect. It's so well done.
Yeah. I mean, that seems to be the thing. Like big guys who had roles where either they were really sexy or like they, just hunky guys. I mean, you got, like you said, you were talking about Peacemaker. You got John Cena doing his silliness with that character. I mean, that's so out of context for who he was when he was in the WWE.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, that too. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, is like the ultimate wrestler turned superstar.
Right.
Same kind of thing. He went from being, wrestling is, everybody knows wrestling's fake. It has its fandom and they love it. And I'm glad for him. But, once he finished with that and moved on, his career really took off. And a lot of it was, I don't want to say that he's like a very serious actor. I don't mean like that. But he definitely kind of tries to stick to action roles instead of more goofy comedy roles. But he's done plenty of goofy comedies.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah,
he did Tooth Fairy or whatever. Yeah,
dude, I love it. We both got the same one.
Yeah, because the only time you can think of The Rock being goofy, and get away with it,
right? Or you got, what is it? Oh gosh, Vin Diesel doing the Pacifier. There's another one too. After he done like Fast and the Furious. So
I got one for you though from Peacemaker. Anybody that's seen it knows there's a character in there. But in Harry Potter, right, there was a character, and I had to look it up. His name was Cormac McLagan.
Yeah.
Cormac McLagan, right?
Yeah, he was.
And you remember he had like a really big broom.
He had a very big broom. He had a big crush on Hermione Granger.
Yeah. And he was kind of vying with, Ron there.
He's a complete goofball. Yeah.
That guy, though, plays Vigilante.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Vigilante, is that the one that's got the full, like he's got the full mask? And it doesn't
he's
so funny.
Literally a sociopath. The dude is a sociopath. He has no emotions. He doesn't understand. It's hilarious.
The one who calls Peacemaker his best friend the entire time.
Yeah, BFF, man. And Peacemaker's like, what?
You're
my friend's little brother. Shut up.
I actually just watched episode 3 last night. So I just got introduced to him. So
okay.
I'm behind the times, man. There's a lot.
Get ready. And
oh yeah. I mean, I'm watching it very like sporadically when I can. So it's Yeah, but it's been fun.
I love it, but it's right up my alley with just a little bit of kind of stupid humor. And then, you know, the DC universe, which I love comic books, both universe, Marvel and DC are my favorite things.
Right.
You know, it's everything that I'd want. And that opening dance, man, is just so just odd, goofy, funny, hilarious. I love it, but I just like, why do I like this so much?
To me, that show to me is like, he's like the DC version, or he's like the DC version of Deadpool in some ways. Like just the way he does things and everything's like very gimmicky. But he also reminds me of the guy from Cobra Kai. I'm gonna draw a blank. Oh man, the main guy, not
Johnny.
Yeah,
or
Johnny.
his
He reminds
boss?
me of Johnny because like
Okay.
he's set back in the day. He likes classic rock music, and he doesn't think that some of the sexist things he says are sexist. You know, and he just says them, and he's like, I don't care. You know, like he calls that one person or the waitress, I think, in the restaurant. Like they call him out on it. I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, and he's like, what?
And he doubles down on it.
He does. He
Totally doubles
this
down.
this is the worst example, but it's how he was raised, you know, and his dad is bad.
But it makes total sense that that's his dad too, because that dude has always played like a bad guy type of person in like
from Terminator.
80s.
What was it, 2 or 3, whatever Terminator it was?
Yep.
Where he was the guy, the first guy that could morph through, and he went through the bars, you know, in the jail or whatever.
He's like the more evil version of Red Foreman.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Like,
or the guy from All in the Family. Do you remember that old show?
Yeah.
All in the Family. And I don't remember the guy's name, unfortunately. And someone's going to yell at me.
Is it not Benny Hill? What?
No, it's Benny Hill. No.
No, it's not Benny Hill. No, wrong person. I know you're talking about.
Wacky Sax. Yes. Here it goes. Yeah, but you know, but he calls his son a meathead, you know, and he's just extremely racist and extremely sexist, and has his own chair. Nobody sits in his chair but him. But is that? And if you once you've finished with the series, we can you know circle back to this one of how just terrible Peacemaker's dad is, and it really shows in who Peacemaker is and who Peacemaker thinks he should be, you know.
There's a whole very toxic masculinity conversation that could be had around those two characters. I feel like for sure. And just like the way that some of our culture is and where it came from, honestly. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. And he only gets worse. His dad only gets worse. Now Peacemaker, I think, starts to get better.
Well, I mean,
his arc is positive, is up, and his dad's arc is down. The more you learn about him, the more you hate him.
I mean, the episode that I just finished where he goes into jail and what the people do that find him, I'm like, oh boy, this is going to get real interesting.
Yeah.
So I get you. I get you completely on that one. So, but hey, I do want to talk to you about an actual topic of somewhat of importance, and it has to do actually with the show. But we're gonna do a quick break, and then we'll be back, and we'll carry on the rest of our conversation. Okay.
Cliffhanger. What?
Cliffhanger. Yeah, cliffhanger. Be right back. Become a member of the National At-Home Dad Network, an organization focused on providing advocacy, community, education, and support, connecting with households where dad is the primary caregiver of the children. We do this through our webinar and podcast series, mental health support groups, regular online social events, as well as our annual convention. The National At-Home Dad Network is a 100% volunteer organization. Without the generous support of its members and the community around it, we would not be able to continue the work that we do. Becoming a member gives you access to past convention speaker presentations, the ability to vote for board members annually, and ensures that the organization's fees and bills are in positive standing. Oh yeah, it should not go unmentioned that there is some cool swag headed your way if you decide to become a member. For only $35 a year, your membership provides you with the exclusive content only we can generate, and you'll be supporting an organization that benefits families all around the country and world. By advocating for them, offering them community, providing education and guidance and supporting them to grow in their parenthood journey. And one last thing, if you contribute $500 or more, you will become a lifetime member. Not only will you receive everything already mentioned, but also a certificate recognizing your status and an exclusive National At-Home Dad Network Challenge coin with our trademark logo, Dads Don't Babysit. So, what are you waiting for? Become a member today. Hey, welcome back. So, tonight we're going to talk about a show that I found on Netflix. And different people have talked about it through social media stuff that I'm a part of. But it's a documentary called The Social Dilemma. And if you haven't seen it, it's definitely something to check out. Danny, you said you haven't seen it. And I'm just kind of introducing it to you for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd never even heard of it. So,
but I think that we can have a conversation based on just like the 30 minutes that I watched of it and just the premise of what it's trying to get at without getting into the full depths of where it's going. So the idea of this is that they pulled together like a group of people who had worked for some of the biggest social media platforms out there. So the guys who like helped create Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and, were a part of like building algorithms for marketing and all these different things and turned it into what it is now, and then looked back on it and went, oh shoot, we just opened Pandora's box and we can't close it back up.
mm-hmm.
And even to the point where one guy said, hey, we're doing all these things and we're not considering some of the mental things that are how they are going to affect people, and basically taking responsibility for the fact that like this could bring upon a different type of addiction and things along those lines. And there was a conversation that took place in the office for like a day or two, and then it just died out because they didn't want to go down that road because it would completely just tank everything they had built.
Yeah.
And it's scary, man. I mean, you watch horror movies and thrill movies and stuff like that, and they make your heart pump. This documentary had my heart beating like crazy for like the first 30 minutes because I'm sitting there going, wow, there's a lot of insider information that they're sharing.
And I'm reading it from the wiki because I've never heard of it or knew what it was, but it's, if I may, just reading straight from it, quote it, the documentary examines how social media is designed, nurtures an addiction, manipulates people's views, emotions, and behavior, and spreads conspiracy theories and disinformation to maximize profit.
Yep.
And it is, I mean, it nurtures an addiction, and it does. It is, well, we all know, we've talked for years about how screens affect our kids on screens too often, and what they're seeing while they're there, what they're doing. The phrase screen time never existed, when I was a kid, of course, but, probably not when you were a kid either.
No.
And it's a very relatively new term, where you give your kids screen time, and it's like, okay, because it includes things. I mean, my first thing you'd think of social media for me is Facebook, because I'm old. But also Instagram, Twitter has been a big one. YouTube fits that very well.
Yep.
TikTok, of course, fits that very well. Snapchat, and then all of the ones that come on. So even YouTube can, in and of itself, even with a small child, if they know how to read, they can read comments. And one of the rules of the internet is never read the comments, because it's just going to make you upset.
Right.
But that's what it's for.
And that was to
upset you.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that YouTube had to really look into, because of the fact that there were people making comments on children's videos, and it was getting to the point where you had like sort of this like To Catch a Predator type thing going on. And YouTube had to step in. And now, like, I know when I post stuff for us, like, you have to pick, is this content suitable for children or not? Yeah. And I always choose, no, this is not.
Right. Yeah.
And mainly what that does is that doesn't allow for it to go to a children's site, and it allows for adults to be the only ones to be able to comment back and forth on it. And so if you choose yes, then it actually doesn't allow anybody to comment on your stuff and it's got kind of a weird situation on how it works out, because there is like kids YouTube, and then there's like the regular YouTube. So, but with the other one, it just doesn't let anybody comment at all, so it keeps it like locked down. But yeah.
And even like with Facebook Messenger, that's probably one of my biggest ways to communicate with a lot of people. People that I know from Facebook, and then people that I know outside of Facebook, who that's how we connect, is Messenger.
Right.
So Kids Messenger, I don't know if you know that they have a specific app, Messenger for kids, and I didn't know that until probably 6 months ago at the most. And I went, well, that's kind of cool, because now my son and daughter, my two youngest, that is, can talk to their friend, and they can actually message me. It goes through my just Messenger app, but they can message me from their computer, or if they have a tablet or whatever. Cool. But at the same time, in a way, we're giving children tools, to progress in technology, which they need. And on the other hand, we're getting kids addicted to or used to the ability to just instantly message it without possibly proper grammar or spelling. And, you make up your own words a lot of times when it comes to text.
Yeah.
And then getting them used to being on that device, staying on that device, communicating and relying on that device. And I mean, I could easily go a day without my phone if I knew my kids were all home, you know? But with my kids leaving the house, I have to have the phone. I've got to have, the email or whatever it's going to be. There's something that's going to happen there at school. I have to be in contact. But if it weren't for that, I think, I could leave my phone for a day.
Sure.
I don't know that I'd want to try for 2 days. I just have too many things going on. I have too many, lines of communication that I built.
Right.
You point out all part of that.
You point out something, though, very like interesting that they actually touch in that documentary, which deals with the fact that the idea is that you are getting drawn back to the phone for different things. And it's really kind of scary how they do a portrayal of it. It felt very like Screwtape Letters, C.S. Lewis, if you've ever read that book, where you've got people in the background pushing buttons and pulling strings to get you to manipulate you to do things. And so, for instance, like, if you're in proximity of somebody else that you might know, like the algorithm that they have in place is going to push for you to connect with that person. Or if they see that you're idle for some reason, because everybody can be tracked on your phones, they see that you're being idle and you're actually like sitting in a place, you're not in a car type of deal. They're going to try to get your attention by like sending you a message that says, hey, like so-and-so just joined somebody's live. Why don't you go over and wave and get involved in it too? It's like really creepy stuff. But at the same time, you're like, you think back on it like, oh yeah, that's happened before. I've been there. And so you got all those kind of implements taking place. And then in the series, or in the documentary as well, you have the parents trying to figure out how to balance all this. Like we were talking about, and it's so funny. They were watching this infomercial in the thing, and it said that they had these like time saver canisters. So they basically like, they keep you from getting into things that you're tempted in. So say you have a craving for like late night snacks, like M&Ms or something, you put those in this container and you turn this dial and it locks them. Like it will not open until like the timer runs out. And this mom gets this idea to put all of their cell phones into it. However, she fails to have them all turn their phones off. And she just puts them in there and then sets it off to the side, and they're trying to have dinner, and one of the phones dings off. And one of the kids, and it's mind blowing, but one of the kids gets up and fakes going to get like a utensil, and instead grabs a hammer and safety glasses and breaks the dang thing on top of the kitchen island, and then walks away with her phone. And it was just like, wow, like that's how far the addiction can go in this, that kids can't put their phones down.
Yeah. And a lot of what kids do, especially in their teen years, but even earlier, a lot of what they do to build their self-esteem is based on the people around them, who they surround themselves with and who they talk to and who talk to them. And the amount of immediate joy that you can get. Oh, I said something clever and a bunch of people liked it. Oh, this is amazing. And it's just the same conversely when you put something that people think is dumb or stupid or they don't like it or whatever, and they either dislike it or downplay it or they make whatever they do, and that constant circling the bowl almost of what am I going to do now? I'm going to do this. How do I got to get more likes. I got more likes. So it's definitely a problem that I know with teenagers, and like my second kid's 12 and he's definitely far enough along. He's on TikTok more than I am. He's always sending me really funny videos, but that's how we communicate a lot of times when he's not here with me.
Right.
He'll send me something on TikTok and we'll laugh together about it, which that in and of itself is great. I love having that interaction. I love having that touch moment with them, touchstone moment, I should say, with them. But then the extent to where it invades your life.
Yeah.
Can you not put your phone down? Are you addicted to your phone? Now, some of us, again, have way more responsibilities. I wouldn't ask Marnie to put her phone away, her work phone. She'll put it away anyway, but if she was on her work phone, I would not bother it because it's her work.
Right.
Even if she's playing, I don't know, she didn't play on it, but, even if she's just, talking to her boss casually, it's your work phone, different scenario. But for the rest of us,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's sort of like what I wanted to get to as well, as the other side of the coin. We've been talking about kids the entire time on this, but adults, we're just as guilty, honestly, with the amount of time we spend on our phones, and it draws us away from our kids. And I've experienced this personally with my kids, because one time the kids were talking about, what was it? Oh, hey, like, can you put your phone down and like play a game with me or something? It's like, oh shoot. Okay. Or it came down to the fact, here's the thing. My kids have huge imaginations. They love Lego at the same time. So, one, we're not really like letting them play tons of video games. Like they get to play the Super Nintendo or the Wii on like the weekends type of deal. For a while there, they were like pretending that they had their own video games, like inside of the car, like their own imagination. It was pretty wild. That turned into them building their own Lego cell phones. So they took all these, like they've seen our phones, they've seen all the apps, and they're all different colors. And so they were like, I can build this. And so they both found a way, like, because they found like the green flat piece that you can build off of, that's about cell phone size, and started building these up. And so this all came to fruition in a hard way the other day when my son had brought the phone with him to the orthodontist, and I felt like a real like give me the Father of the Year award at this point, because he has this phone out and we're like waiting to get some things done, and he's acting like his phone is blowing up with text messages. And he's reacting to it. He's like, man, when are they going to stop texting me? Man, my phone is blowing up. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I'm just getting all these text messages from Ruby and all my other friends and stuff. I'm like, it's a piece of Lego, dude. And he's like, no. And I'm like, you need to give me that phone right now. like your imagination has just taken off to the third realm. I don't know what's going on. But at the same time, I sat there and I was just like, okay, he sees me on my phone. And granted, a lot of times what I'm doing is social media related, based on like stuff I work on. But at the same time too, my wife pointed out, she was like, maybe we need to be a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? Just a little bit more conscious of how much time we are spending on our phones in front of the kids type of deal. Sure. And I wonder how many other parents have either not come to that realization or have come to that realization.
Well, especially over the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, again, phrases that never existed before, doom scrolling. You're just going to sit there and scroll through whatever, or the other one is going through the same 4 apps. You're going through one, you don't get what you go to the next one until you pass out, I guess, from a lack of sleep.
I'm guilty of that.
Facebook's not doing it for me. Let's see what TikTok's doing tonight.
Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah, let's go to IG and see what's going on. And that's completely understandable when we look at what we've been going through for the last 3 years. We had quarantine exhaustion in 2020, We were all done with every single person, but most of us were just not done with being quarantined. Man, I want to take my kids out. It's summer. I want to go to the park. I want to go to the pool. I want to do these things with my kids, and I'm not allowed because of blah blah. And that exhaustion that we get. Well, the only thing we've got to do is scroll through our phone,
right?
But again, it's just like the other thing we have to do is snack. And I don't know about you, but I spent a lot of time snacking over the last 3 years.
I've done my fair share.
You're just like, well, we can't, I'm going to have some chips, And the other thing too, is it was kind of like, I always called that lawless wasteland between Christmas Day and New Year's Eve, where it's just, you do whatever you want, and it's just full of cheese. And that's my life. And that's what we kind of did at home. We said, I'm going to go ahead and make that thing we don't make very often. We made a bunch of things we didn't make very often because we wanted that experience, that food that was, out of the ordinary, maybe I think almost hands down every single time, not really good for you, but because we're just dealing with so much stuff going on.
That's what I feel like now, Pizza the Hut from Spaceballs.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. Don't get locked in the car and die.
Eat myself.
Right. I'm not. But so we've been in that place where we're all been pushed to our end, and we're still there in a lot of ways. But how we've dealt with that, okay, we've had to deal with it in certain ways. I have given myself a lot of leeway on exercise and eating because it's just, there's too many other things going on that I had to worry about.
Yeah.
What do I have to do to get through this day? Well, now we're at a point where a majority of people are vaccinated. I would say a majority, but probably a majority of the people are vaccinated.
We're
getting to it more comfortable. Yeah. And we're feeling like we're getting back to it. Well, then the other part of it is how much time you spend on your screen.
Right.
And is that what your kid sees you? I mean, is that who you are? Is that guy sitting on the couch with his phone in front of him?
Yep.
Is he interrupting you? Is your child interrupting you every single time? Like what are you doing? Go play a game. Go play Taco Cat Goat Pizza. Did I get it right? Yeah.
Taco Cat Goat Cheese.
Goat Cheese Pizza.
Pizza. Yeah. And the goat and the cheese are two separate things. It just sounds like goat cheese. So.
Oh, yeah.
It's not goat cheese. It's actual like Taco Cat, goat, and cheese and pizza. Like that's what it is. Anyway,
got it.
I digress.
Got it. No, it's good to be clear. Gotta clarify. Make sure we know what game we're talking about. I don't want to get the other game where goat cheese is one word, and then
that's a completely different game.
It's completely different. It's not any fun. I'm sure. Not any fun.
Well, so. You bring up another thing though. You were talking about like doom scrolling and things like that. In the documentary, they are talking about the fact that like they were talking about how like they could control pushing people to the polls and like all the and like conspiracy theory stuff and like all these different things. And it was just mind-blowing because it's everything that you hear about from people who are like, oh, this is why I don't want to be on Facebook or whatever. And it's like, to be honest, like it's not just Facebook. Like I get people all the time. I see things like where there'll be like a contest running and someone says, okay, you have to, like our Facebook page and like do this on Instagram or whatever. And people are like, well, I'm not on Facebook anymore. It's like, great. Like, wonderful you to be able to make that choice. However, one, you should also realize that those two entities are actually connected. Like Facebook owns Instagram, which some people don't understand. But on top of that too, it's like, no matter what platform you're on, even Pinterest, if you're on Pinterest or Etsy or whatever, like those things as well, they're grabbing up your data. They're finding out ways for you to like stay in there. And people just, it's so funny. It's like, unless you're going to go back to the old Nokia flip phone or the actual candy bar phone, which doesn't even work on the networks anymore, because if you don't have 4 to 5G, your phone doesn't really function. So unless, somehow you're able to figure out a way to do that, you're being tracked. Like that's just, even anybody who has a smart television in their house, they're tracking that. Like it's a part of the internet. Like you're hooked up to it at all times. We were talking about, kind of talking about the internet and how like you had to connect to it. Like you had to make the conscious effort to like dial in.
Yeah. You went online. You actually went online. Yeah.
Right. You actually chose to go into the matrix, which is where with us now, like we are in the matrix. And I feel like that movie has so much more like pull to it than it used to, with just the fact that like we are connected into that. So, but anyway, yeah, just the idea of how those little things can thread in, and you have to be mindful of it. Like that's the whole thing with addiction. Like if you can say, I don't need that, and scroll past it, like there is being able to scroll past something. Like I'm not going to react to this. And I'm just like, whatever, like they're having a conversation. I happen to walk by it on the street and I am not getting involved. In the same way, that has to be your mindset when you're online. And too often it's like we're all the dad from the insurance company, Allstate commercial, I think it is, where they're like, don't be your dad.
Trying to keep people from turning into their parents.
Yeah, trying to turn into your parents type of thing. It's that same situation. It's like, you don't have to say anything kind of deal.
Right. Did he ask your opinion? Did he ask for your help? Oh, no, he's a plumber. You hired him. You just back off and let him go. Yeah. And that same kind of thing. It's a natural response though online. Whereas if we're walking down the street, even if it offends us, a lot of times we're not going to get involved because we don't have that screen, safety. So there's a big difference in its way. But if you can't put your phone down, if you can't go hours a day, whatever, without your phone, not saying this is, a horrible human being or anything like that, but that probably indicates that you're addicted to it, that you're using it and as a crutch, as it were, to get through whatever you need to get through. Well, if you're addicted though, you should address it, in whatever way you want to. You want to ignore it, that's fine. But when we think about it as dads, as parents, we have to look at what we're teaching our child.
Right.
And our child knows exactly what we're doing. They watch us and they're going to just like eyes of an eagle, remember things that we said that we don't remember saying, that whole thing, pick up our habits without even thinking about it, because they don't know that there's anything other than, you just play on your phone all day.
Right.
That's what you do. Right. It's so part, like you said, such a big part of how we live our lives now. They're on the internet right now, whether they're sitting at a screen or not, they're on the internet. It's there, it's in the house, it's waiting.
Right. Well, it's like, when you go outside and you play with your kids, like, don't put your phone in your pocket. It's too much temptation. I don't care who you are. Like, set it somewhere, plug it in and let it charge and go outside and play. And don't be worried about the fact like, oh, I'm going to miss this great opportunity to like take a video or a picture or whatever. Like, dude, like we didn't have that stuff back in the day. Like
back in the day,
I mean, but still, even though like you should be able to retell what took place without having to take a picture and send it off, that kind of thing. That to me is the biggest thing that I've learned for myself, is that I always want to be like, oh, I want to capture this moment and I'll, like all that stuff. And I'm like, no, because I find myself then like, oh, look, there's a chair and the kids are off doing their own thing. I'm just going to sit over here and just scroll, and it's like, it's just, and then my kids are looking at me like, I thought you were playing with us kind of deal. And it's like, and so there's no explanation for it other than the fact that like I decided to pick up my drug of choice, that kind of thing. So, so I've had to make a very conscious effort on multiple occasions. Be like, all right, like I'm leaving my phone in the house. I don't need it for any reason type of deal. Or, I'll put it in the garage where I can't get to it unless I really need, like if there's an emergency, it's like, oh, I need my phone type of deal. Like at least it's within, distance or whatever. But regardless of that, like it's not in my pocket. It's not on my person.
Yeah.
So this documentary just opens the eyes a bit to that and to the fact, that we are the product. Like that's the other thing. Like we're on these free things and we're like, oh, it's so great, it's free. It's like, yeah, we're the product. Like they're selling us to these businesses. Like
ad revenue is huge.
Right. I mean, right now, I'll give you a very clear example of this, because you're not in the Cincinnati area. So you wouldn't have had any of these ads unless for some reason you decided to like, Google search like AFC champions or something like that. But the minute I guarantee anybody put that in their phone, the next thing you got were all these third-party ads for t-shirts and sweatshirts and hats and all kinds of merch that had anything to do with the Cincinnati Bengals. And I've like basically like the only way to get rid of some of it is like, all right, I'm just done looking at it. And like, you just have to like hit like hide ad. And after a while, like it finally dissipates off until you go to hunt for something else. And then you start getting stuff for camping equipment and everything else, because you're starting to plan for that. So it's, I mean, it is like driving down the highway and just having billboard after billboard after billboard. Like that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. And the amount of money they make out
billions.
of making us mad, of sending us and showing us stuff that's going to piss us off.
Right.
I mean, the number of times we've got an Amazon Echo upstairs in the kitchen because I wanted to watch videos of, you know, cooking videos and stuff like that. I wanted the screen. So it's got a sizable little 8-inch screen or whatever, but it stays on all the time. And unless you close it off, it senses motion. So when you walk into the kitchen, it comes on, it lights up or whatever, and it starts showing you stuff, whatever. You know, sometimes it's like the clock or the calendar or whatever, that's fine. And then there's also like weather or alerts and stuff like that. But the number of times that it has shown like a picture of somebody that I don't necessarily agree with or like, and then a caption underneath it, so-and-so said this, watch the blah, blah video, you know, and it's that person's video or whatever on the news or held the news ad or whatever. And I'm like, man, I can't, there's no way he said that or she said that. That's not, oh man, I got to watch. And I do. And every time, every time I watch it, and I mean, I don't now, but for the longest time after we got it, I wasn't watching any cooking videos. There were no recipes on that. It was all news. It was all news that I don't normally listen to, even news services that, because you don't really pick. I'm like, oh yeah, show me the video about, you know, blah, blah, going to space or whatever. Let's say NASA's doing this. Let's see what's going on. Okay, it shows you that. And then it continues. Oh, now we're going to watch, we're going to go over to blank, blank news. And then, okay, now I'm, you know, an hour into watching these stupid videos while I'm not cooking dinner or whatever. And because it's all stuff that makes me mad, you know, it irritates me, it pushes me. And we often see like, oh, if we could just go back to the cat videos and pictures of my grandkids, that would be great. I mean, I hear that a lot from, you know, the older generation, because that's what they want Facebook to be. Cool. Right. You don't want to fight. You don't want to talk about politics, religion, yada, yada. I get it. But Facebook is there. IG is there. Most of the services are there to make you mad so that you watch more. Right. So that they make more money.
And so I will say this. So Facebook is worse than Instagram and Twitter is worse than all of them combined. Honestly.
Yeah, I believe it.
But Facebook is bad because their algorithm puts news articles, whether they be real or fake or whatever it is, conspiracy theories, just clickbait galore, like the stuff you're talking about, all over. Like every third person, every third like actual profile you go to, the next one is going to be that sponsored thing or a news thing.
Yeah.
The thing about Instagram that I like is that who you follow is who you see. And the only thing other than that you get are like third-party ads, but they're not. But it's not news related. It's always always merch. It's a merchandise thing. Yeah. So that's the one nice thing about Instagram in that fashion. And that's why a lot of people have left Facebook to come to Instagram, is because they know they're not going to get that. Now I will say though, so my dad's a trucker. I used to drive a truck. A lot of my family are truckers still. And the whole, like, for instance, the whole incident going on up on the Canadian border and stuff with COVID and, you know, not letting people in and the border being closed, like, which started to affect my dad's work because he actually drives car parts, you know, from Detroit down to Northern Ohio and into Fort Wayne, Indiana. So like we got to talking about that. But then I started seeing where, like, one, I was like, all right, like I cannot get invested or involved in what's going on up there. Like I have absolutely no pony in that show. Like there's nothing there. Like, yes, like anyways, there's a whole nother conversation to have about that. Anyway, so then you get the American truckers that start taking that and bringing it into the States, and they want to do a convoy as well. Which I'm like, there's nothing keeping you from getting around the entire country. Like you're just trying to like poke the bear and start a fire. But at the same time too, that gets on there and people start going, oh my gosh, because if anybody knows anything about the trucking industry, if trucks were to stop and just do a protest like that for 3 days, the lack of food that you would find in the grocery stores would be apocalyptic.
Yeah.
No joke. And so, like, I was talking with my dad about it. I'm like, I'm not going to get involved in this argument with you. I don't know where your position fully sits on with it. I was telling my dad, and he's kind of in a weird spot with it because, like I said, it affects his work. But at the same time, like, he also agrees with the fact that, like, there's some things that he feels should change. But I was just like, I can't get involved in this either. Like, this is just too much of what's going on. But because, like, he and I were having the conversation and your freaking phone listens to you, like, I had 2 weeks worth of all this like BS coming through my phone. And I'm just like, this is so annoying. Like, I had to spend time like getting rid of all this stuff because I'm just like, you want me to react to this. You want me to get fired up about it.
Bingo.
But I don't need to get fired. I don't need to get invested in that.
I don't have a dog in this fight.
Nope.
There's
my energy does not need to be wasted on that. Like, the emotions get too high and everything else. So, but I mean, like, but that's the thing. When I was watching this, I was most like, oh my goodness, like, it's so scary. And it's like, so I bring this up and I say all that to just basically bring awareness to the fact of, one, like, how we as parents utilize the tools that we have, how our kids are seeing us use those, and then also too, like, what conversations are we going to have, and how vulnerable are you going to be with your kids when you talk with them? Because you don't want to come at them from a like, don't do this kind of thing, but you want to also be like, hey, like, this is what's out here. This world is it is very crazy and very scary in some ways, but there's also a lot of good.
Yes.
But you got to watch what you get yourself involved in.
Yeah. Well, like Mr. Rogers said, no matter what you see, look for the helpers.
Yes.
If you're looking at any type of tragedy, any bad thing, and look for the helpers. That's who you need to focus on. That's what you need to think about, because that teaches us then how helpers operate and how we can then be helpers in whatever situation it is. So yeah, look for the positive. It's such a cliche thing to say. Sometimes there is no positive, sometimes life just sucks. But at the same time, if all we want to look for is the suck, we'll never see anything else. So if we're looking for the other things, that's what we're going to hopefully find. And then again, show to our kids, push to our kids. This is what we're doing We're going to go look for the helpers. We're going to go be helpers. We're going over to the nursing home and we're going to pass out balloons. Why? Because we just want to give people balloons. It makes them watch how they smile. Look how happy it makes them for you to give them a balloon.
Go read stories. Go read stories to the elderly. Like they love that. They love it. Especially you get folks who, if they have dementia and like they're just like yearning to be around like some of their kids and stuff. Like those people appreciate it more than you will ever know that you spent time with them.
Yeah, because it is such a huge moment in their day that they kind of spend just taking meds and
sitting around watching TV
for whatever next happens. Yeah. Take care of your elderly people. Take care of them. I'm going to be one soon, so keep me in your
you got some time. You got some time. You're fine.
Oh, it's sooner than you think.
Don't tell me that. I'm only like 10 years behind you.
How old's your oldest kid?
My oldest is 9.
7. 9. I did say, okay.
Yeah, you're right.
So how quick did that decade go?
Oh man, that was a snap.
Your kid was born like yesterday, right? I mean, just a couple of days ago, you just brought him home from the hospital.
What's crazier than that is the fact that in 10 more years, he will be more than likely out of the house. And I will have another one who will be very close to being out of the house.
Almost out too.
And so like, that's their thing. Yeah. I mean, Corey and I are talking about, it's like, we have like 10 years to plan what empty nester is going to be like.
Right.
Which I'm glad that we're having that. I think that's a whole nother topic that we could have a talk about with empty nesters, because I think that sometimes parents don't plan that way. They're in the moment. They're just enjoying it. And they're not looking at like the quote unquote finish line of like their actual like parenthood, kids under your wings kind of deal versus, okay, now they're adults. and we are taking a different turn
Mhm.
as we are not parenting these people that we have grown to be adults type of deal.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's a whole nother topic, honestly.
It is. It is.
But I think it would be a good one to have at some point with maybe some professional folk involved. Who knows?
Some professional empty nesters.
Yeah, there's plenty of those out there.
Are they professional? You get paid to be an empty nester? That's a good job.
Yeah. Well, maybe just like a therapist. That's what I was thinking. More along the lines of.
Yeah. We need like a local therapist. We need to get somebody in here that's like our personal, or not our personal, but our podcast.
Yeah, there's a couple family therapists that that the organization's connected with that we could probably tap.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, like I said, I just wanted to kind of have a conversation about that. It just was sitting there on my mind, but
great.
I
enjoyed it.
So fun thing, kind of switching to some fun stuff. So this weekend, I get to take my daughter to our first ever father-daughter dance.
Mm-hmm. I think I remember you mentioned that. Yeah. Is it at the school or?
It's at the school. Yeah. So, that's going to be the fun thing. Like, they haven't been able to do this for a couple of years. Things are better number wise. A lot of people are vaccinated, so they felt more comfortable to have it. But yeah, so it's going to be exciting. I actually bought her a tiara
nice
to go with her dress, and she's pretty excited about that. And I've got a matching kind of matching shirt and bow tie to go along with her outfit. So
of course, bow tie.
But yeah, I'm excited to get to do that experience. It's one of those things where it's like I never really considered it, and then like when I saw a few years ago that they had that at the school, I was like, oh, that would be fun to do. So
yeah, it was fun. I went with Elizabeth a couple of years ago to her first, and it was basically a bunch of parents hanging out in the gym while little kids ran around being crazy.
Yep.
And sometimes we were dancing, and Lizzie loves to dance. I mean, we dance every morning. We have I get them up at 7:30, and we have I can't remember what thing is, but I have Alexa bring up a program every morning, 7:30, boom. They play this silly song, kids bop kind of thing. And that's her signal. The first one goes off and she wakes and she hates everything. And then like 10, 15 minutes later, she's moving her head. And then by the time it's ready to go, she's just jazzing her way out through the door with her backpack on. Right. And she loves dancing. It's just part of her expression, how part of her do it. So that part of it for us being at that dance together was really cool because she got to dance with me, to just do, the electric slide or whatever we were doing, or, whatever other dances that we were doing that I didn't know what, I don't know what we're doing, but we move like, okay, one step, I got it, and two step. All right, let's go. Chicken dance next. Let's go.
I think that if they play Frozen music and Encanto music, she's going to be very happy because those are her go-tos.
Yeah.
So you sing along to them and she knows how to dance to them. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just getting the opportunity to take her, I'm looking forward to that. My son's really excited about getting to spend the evening with mom. Gets to spend evening with mama. He's trying to plan that out right now. So
here's what mom's making me for dinner. Here's what mom's putting on TV for me to watch. Here's the game mom and I are going to play.
Yep. That's exactly what it is. He's a planner too. He is a planner, and he will just be like, I had this all planned out. We're like, oh, okay. Like didn't know that was coming. So
yeah, he should have wrote that down for us, man.
Yeah. Needed the memo for that one.
Right.
Oh my goodness. But anyway, yeah. So it's gonna be a good weekend. So
it's gonna be good.
Do you have anything planned for your family?
No, we're all still sick, and went to the doctor yesterday, and basically he said the exhaustion is going to be another 2-3 weeks. So and I'm like, no, it's not. I can't be exhausted like this for another 2-3 weeks. But so we're not doing anything.
Dang.
Just it's just I'm doing breathing exercises every hour. That's my weekend plan.
Okay.
So
man, 2-3 weeks, that puts you almost right up to spring break.
Yeah, it's awful. Yeah. Now, he said he doesn't know. Sometimes he said it could be quicker. You could get over it immediately, but you're basically, he said, you're old and fat. So it's going to be, he didn't say that, but
Dang,
because of your conditions. No, because I'm old and fat. So everything's going to be more difficult. Come on. But I'm also harder to kidnap. So
I don't know, man. A box of Twinkies and you're in the van, dude.
Man, I don't eat Twinkies. Swiss cake rolls.
Fine. Donuts.
You filthy casual.
A box of donuts.
Little Debbie Swiss cake rolls, man.
Oh, that's where it's at. Okay.
And I will be, and it's from, and I don't even like them that much. Like it's just like, that's what I had when I was in, when I first got my first job and I could buy my own food because we didn't have a lot of food. So I would go to the candy, the candy store, whatever store it was, and buy candy and take candy to school and give it to other kids, and the first thing that I had was a box of Little Debbie Swiss cake rolls. And I'm like, wow, it was like $2 too. They're so cheap, relatively speaking. And so I sat down and ate the whole thing.
Oh, shoot.
I mean, and I'm trying, and granted, I was like 16. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I was burning calories without even trying, but that's what I still do. Like, yeah, okay, don't get Swiss cake rolls because I'll just take the box and I'll sit there and eat the whole thing till I literally will throw up.
Hey, Danny, where are you going after school today? I got to go meet up with my girlfriend. Oh, you have a girlfriend? Yeah. What's her name? Debbie. Oh, yeah.
Debbie.
What's she look like? She's little.
Yep. Little Debbie. She's my favorite.
Oh, man. Well, hey,
anyway,
I think we should probably stop.
Yeah, we're good now. We're good. Yeah. I'm all done. Been a great show.
Yeah, they got off the rails there a little bit.
Everybody make sure to talk to us on all of our social medias and
definitely. Yeah. So
don't think bad about us.
Check out our social media because we'd love for you to not only follow, but we'd love for you to share the content we're putting out. That's super helpful in letting other people find us. Also, check out the membership page at the athomedad.org and look into becoming a supporting member. It's only $35. And you get a lot of really good stuff out of it, along with the fact of just helping out the organization. So hopefully that's something you're interested in. Even if you're not a dad, you're a supporting member. Like it's open to everybody. That's the thing that we've really strived for. So
think how good you'll feel.
There you go.
Giving that money to an organization like this. So we're literally volunteer run and trying our very best to give people content that helps them understand what a primary caretaker looks like when he's a dad, when it's a dad instead of a mom. It's beautiful. Come on.
Doing good things, man. It releases endorphins and it makes you happy.
Right? You want to feel better? Doom scrolling isn't going to do it.
Nope.
Is that the message? That's the message for tonight. Doom scrolling's not going to do it. Donate to the National At-Home Dad Network.
I love it. There we go. All right. Well, hey, everybody have a great one and we'll talk to you again next week.
Good night, everybody.
Oh, where's the stop button? Become a member of the National At-Home Dad Network. It's more than a convention. It's an organization focused on providing advocacy, community, education, and support for households where the dad is the primary caregiver of the children. We do this through our webinar series, podcast series, mental health support groups, and regular online social events. But to do all of this, we need the support of the community. The National At-Home Dad Network is a 100% volunteer organization, and without the generous support of its members and the community around it, but to do all this, we need the support of the community. The National At-Home Dad Network is a 100% volunteer organization. Without the generous support of its members and the community around it, we would not be able to continue the work that we do. Becoming a member gives you access to our library of webinars, as well as past convention speakers' presentations. And yes, with becoming a member, there is some cool swag that you will get. For just $35 a year, you will be provided with exclusive content that only we can generate. And you'll be helping to support an organization that benefits families all around the country and the world by advocating for them, offering them community, and supporting them to grow in their parenthood journey. For those interested in becoming a lifetime member, a contribution of $500 or more can be made to the organization. Not only will you receive everything we've already mentioned, but also a certificate recognizing your status and an exclusive National At-Home Dad coin with our Dads Don't Babysit logo. So, become a member today. All right, and welcome back. Thanks for being a part of the rest of the show. We have our guest with us today. We have Mark and Becca, who are couple, and Mark is a stay-at-home dad, and Becca is writing a book alongside with a student named Grace. And we're going to be talking with Becca and Grace a little more later on here in this conversation. But we wanted to first get Mark and Becca's family dynamic and just kind of how things are working during this pandemic and just stay-at-home dad life and all those different balances. So Mark and Becca, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about you guys' self.
Honey, you want to lead off, or you want me to grab this?
Go for it.
Thanks, guys. So the pandemic has completely upended, I think, our family life because, back in the day, Becca used to go into the city every morning, and I was with the kids. But now that she's around and available, part of my job is to try to keep our 4-year-old out of her meetings with the CEO and the president and the VPs and all of that, because he doesn't understand the distinctions between working at home. I mean, he doesn't really understand. I explained to him that, people work in an office, and he asked me questions for about 30 minutes about that. He just doesn't get it.
He just thinks it's like a game of Red Rover.
Well, he'd say, like, what's that building? And I said, well, that's an office building. And that's where that conversation went. He didn't really seem to understand. He also didn't understand why he couldn't just walk in there and just start rummaging through the place. But so he's never actually known a world where people go somewhere else to work. He knows that his mother is working, but he doesn't understand why she's not available frequently.
Yeah, he doesn't remember. He's 2, because he's about 4.5 at this point. So I've been at home for like 2 years. He does not remember
all of his life, really. I mean,
he's as far as he's concerned, that's what happens. Everybody just stays in the house. We just live here. We go nowhere. We do nothing. Nobody visits. We go to nobody's house. All socializing happens via FaceTime. That's the sort of ridiculous. I wonder sometimes what the effect is on his brain.
Right.
Because the older one remembers, right? The older one remembers and still has a sense of this being a weird change in how life is supposed to work.
So how many kids do you guys have?
2.
2. Okay. What age is
that? A 9-year-old.
Oh, 9 and 4.
And a 4, yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, that would definitely be I'm sure quite a difference. I know I have a 9-year-old. And he struggles all the time with like, why can't we do this? Or like his birthday came around and he's like, my sister got to have a party. I'm like, yeah, that's because it was in October. We could do it outside. Like in February, not so much. Like, we're gonna give you a half birthday. So
so Mark, how long are you a full-time at-home dad, or you work from home, and how long have you been doing that?
I am a full-time at-home dad. I've been for 9 years. And
nice.
Yeah. So when our oldest when Becca was pregnant with our eldest, we decided that we wanted to have, a parent be at home with the kids. And honestly, we were both working in academia. I was an adjunct professor, and she was an administrator. She just made more money than I did. And so it was a crassly financial decision, which, so we didn't really give a ton of thought to it. I've felt like, in the interim, that I would recommend that people really think about not the decision to have an at-home parent if you can afford to have one, but really like who is going to do that job. And really, I don't feel like I asked myself a lot of questions about my temperament and my particular talents. I think I've been a pretty good at-home parent, but the fact that I didn't really think about it very much still sort of bothers me.
Yeah,
to be honest with you,
I think some of us, if we thought about it too much, we probably wouldn't do it, because there is so much involved. It's such an on-the-job learning experience.
Yeah. Well, I think things specific to being an at-home dad, I think there are some advantages, not to be stereotypical or anything, but there are some real disadvantages. And I think, part of it, one of them is that, the at-home moms tend to congregate and click with one another, and they will box you out. They're not at all inviting. And that's fine. I don't take it personally. I've felt badly about any impact on my kids not having social opportunities, because when we go to a playground, I'm with them and all the moms are congregating with their kids, and they're not inclusive at all. And they never have been. That's not changed over 9 years. They just, I think they meet up and they want to hang out with each other, and they don't want a dude in the mix.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't care about myself, but I do sometimes feel badly that that's limited my children's opportunities socially in a way that, if they had an at-home mom, that wouldn't have happened. But that's one thing that I didn't think about.
I was just going to say, Grace's context for you, because I noticed you were sort of making faces like, what? That's awful. From what I've observed, the two reasons that it happens is, one, these women are gathering frequently to complain about their husbands while their children run around and play. And if a husband is there, then that kind of ruins the whole vibe. So that's the really obnoxious reason that happens. But the other reason that I have a little bit more empathy for is also the social norms are such that if you're in heteronormative relationships and you're a group of women and a guy is there, all of a sudden there's all kinds of threat. Is he going to start macking on us? Is he looking to go outside of his marriage in a way that there is
will my husband
safety?
Be okay with this?
Right. Well, my husband. So we've, and an assumption that there won't be shared values or shared norms, that there'll be more to like have to pay attention to or be worried about. I remember when we were still in Florida, it was two moms who ran a particular play center that we liked taking Ryan when he was little too. And they had to basically vouch for Mark. Like I could only go there every once in a while because at that point I was working in the office, and they had to basically vouch for Mark because it was all, other than that, all moms who were there. And they would like almost shut down in this indoor space where you really can't just like, you can hear what everybody's saying, right?
Right.
And that was what you said, that they kind of had to like vouch for you, right? Of like, it's okay. He's a good one. He's not.
I was the sleep dad.
He's a good one.
They built me as the sleep dad because I had done a ton of sleep research because Becca's sister had a nightmarish situation with her eldest daughter when her daughter was a baby. Gave her all kinds of problems with sleep and everything. And I just was like, I mean, the stories that she would tell us were traumatizing to me, and it didn't even happen to us. So I think we just decided that our kids may not learn how to eat. They may not know how to brush their teeth, but they're going to know how to sleep. And so I'd done a lot of research, and so the owners of this play center kind of introduced me to some of the moms as the sleep dad, and I talked with them, about stuff that I'd learned. And, that wasn't in, but it wasn't. I don't know that it moved the needle a ton, but. So I had to have a skill, in other words, to even be presentable. Right. I had to have like a specific.
Yeah, it's a very common thing, and we run into it all the time. We have dads all the time talking about it, and the lack of community and the isolation is another part of it. But I mean, I've been to the playground and had moms kind of like, and I'm like, I'm not here to take your kids. I brought my own kids. I have 4 kids with me. I'm not taking any more home. Why are you even, having a concern with this? You can have one of mine. I'm fine with it. I'll see you tomorrow. But it's really interesting that just walking onto the playground, even if you have kids with you, they just immediately have this thought of, and again, it's all of the dynamics that are involved in relationships and who they are as people and things like that. And it makes it really difficult, really difficult.
Yeah, I will say that it's become more common to see at-home dads. When I started this 9 years ago, now we lived in a different part of the country. I lived in Florida.
In the red part of Florida, like a super red part of Florida.
Well, in a pink, I would say a pink part. Okay, you just listen to her. She knows what she's talking about. There weren't any at-home dads. Our neighbor across the street was confused. They were elderly couple, and they profoundly confused. Like he didn't hear me right. And when we moved up here, we live in suburban Philadelphia now, and it's more common to see dads, but it's not the norm by any stretch of the imagination. So it's like it's not unheard of, and we live in a very liberal area, so of course all the moms are of course supportive, and that's great, and they still box
from
you
a distance, right? Supportive,
exactly. We love that idea from over here.
That's right. You do that over there and enjoy.
Exactly. We're glad you're doing it. It's very important. No, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
So how has Yeah. So how has writing the book and sort of kind of getting things rolling, how has that played a factor in just sort of like the day-to-day dynamics of your guys' family with this book being written and just your profession, Becca? What's that been like?
I mean, it's hard to find the time, honestly. That is one of the many reasons that I'm delighted to be co-authoring it with you, Grace. Is there's it makes it so that there's more perspective and more to share, because I still need to work my full-time job. I still need to spend time with my kids. So basically, any work on the book needs to happen between 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. On weeknights, or between 2:30 to 4 p.m. on Saturday or Sunday. That's basically it. When the 4-year-old is napping, or when the 4-year-old is in bed already at night. Those are the only options for working on it. And Grace, I mean, of course, you're a full-time student, so it's not like Grace just is like loads of time. She's in an Ivy League school, right? Like it's not like that's a low pressure environment with lots of open time either. So I don't know. For me, it's definitely been about the fact that it gives me a lot of energy. I can't normally do anything thoughtful after 8:30 at night. I've been either with the kids or at work the entire day, and by that point in night, I'm pretty much an idiot. But I'm so excited by the topic and by the chance to really like the young folks that we're interviewing, and the things that they're saying are just, it's energizing because of how inspiring it is to listen to them talk. So that's part of the only way that it happens.
Hearing you say that, I definitely appreciate you giving us the time at this time of night to talk to you. Then for sure.
Yeah.
If I sound stupid, that's why. I blame my children, and I forgive everyone else for that. But yeah, by the time of being in back-to-back meetings all day, I essentially was in meetings from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. on email until 5:45 p.m. making dinner, getting everybody fed, getting everybody ready for bed, and then hopping onto this call. So,
we can definitely understand that. Like both Danny and I's wives are probably in a very similar situation with calls and meetings and things all day. My wife is a manager for in the financial industry, and so she has a team that she works with all day. So she's on Zoom calls and all that all day. And Danny's wife she's
international too. No, she's I don't know where she's at, but she's in human resources, and she does a lot of support for like the people that manage huge, like LAO is Latin American organization. So all of the Latin American countries, and they have one person that handles that, and she handles all of his, not admin stuff, but like HR level. Yeah. So she's a baller for sure, but she's also, 5 o'clock in the morning, I wake up and she's gone, and she's like, oh, well, I got up early. I just wanted to get a call, or I wanted to do this. I have to go. I'm the delivery boy now. I bring her food like most days, or I make sure she goes like, have you had water? Have you had, you get in here, and I'm like, she's like, well, I'm not a kid. I'm like, you're not a kid, but what you are is a highly motivated, highly skilled corporate person who's ignoring their needs. So yeah, I'm going to step in and go get a glass of water, go get a meal.
You can be proud of me then. I have my 20-ounce water bottle always.
Yeah.
I'm the guy who I'll make my wife breakfast, and I walk in and I actually accidentally get on camera to be like, oh, look who's serving me right now, kind of thing.
Mark, I want to know where this has happened. These two guys are in the same community.
Oh shoot,
issue.
Mark, I'm sorry, man.
I was about to text you both, like, you guys are making me look like shit.
I thought I saw steam coming out of his ears while we were talking.
No. All of my kids are in school. So that's the only reason.
Mine too. So that is the confession.
That's all it is.
Older kids in school.
Swear.
Got the pass. Thank God.
Yeah, that gets you out of that little bit of it. So, well, hey, Mark, thanks for coming in and talking with us and giving us insight into what's going on with the family, man. It's great to finally get to actually meet you too. I know we've seen you talk over some things in the group, so it's nice to put a face with the name, and hopefully if everything.
Okay, so it is February. I was like, is that me?
Nah.
Nope.
And if everything, oh, am I going out again?
You froze, yeah.
You're good now.
This is why I edit the podcast.
Wah, wah.
So, but I'm glad to finally get to meet you. I honestly, I hope if it would work out for you to be able to get to come to Home Dad Con out in Phoenix at the end of September. It's a weekend of stay-at-home dads getting together, and it's a professional building for dads. So we'll have lots of speakers and just time to get together with a lot of the guys that are online and just have camaraderie. And it's a good time. We've been doing it for a while. We actually had it here in Cincinnati this past year. I was hosting it. That's where I'm from. And we had about 100 dads from all over the country that came in. So it was a great time. But yeah,
that's cool. I would love to check that out.
Awesome.
Am I allowed to plug my blog?
Yeah, man, definitely. Before you go, sure.
Okay. Check it out. We Heart Dad. That's WeHeart dad.com. It's my chronicle of my sort of crazy adventures with our screwed up kids and their screwed up parents.
That's awesome, man. Yeah,
Imperfect kids.
Right. Thanks, guys. It was great to meet both of you, and I'll see you around in the group.
Sounds
I hope
good.
so, Mark.
We'll talk soon. We'll talk soon.
Care.
I got some resources for you with your blog later. We'll talk.
Awesome.
I'll get you hooked. I'll get you hooked up with some stuff, man. But yeah, thanks for coming on.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, so now we're going to switch gears, and we're going to be talking with Becca Block and Grace Edwards, and they are co-writing the book that is not out on shelves just yet. It's still in the works on some different areas, but it's Can You Help Me Give a Shit? With an apostrophe. There's like a little mark in there. So, but we'll say it because it's a podcast and that's how we do things here. And I love it. It's a great title, honestly, very catchy. I feel like if it was on the bookshelf and I walked in, it would stop me in my tracks and I would have to figure out go see what it was. So kudos on the title. But welcome to the show. Grace, you've gotten to kind of be a fly on the wall during all of that there in the back, probably wondering whether or not you want to eject right now from talking to us, but I'm glad that you bring our age demographic way down coming on, and it's good to have you.
Yay. Thank you for having me.
Definitely. So we were talking a little bit about you when you were standing there. So you go to an Ivy League school. Tell us a little bit about who you are, like where you're going to school at, and what you're going to school for.
Yeah, I am a first year at the University of Pennsylvania. My major is health and societies, which is kind of like public health for other universities. But I'm a pre-med student and I am hoping to do a minor in journalistic writing. So yeah, I'm originally from Maryland, but my dad and I moved out to Philly suburbs this past summer.
Okay, awesome. And Becca, what is your title and what do you do outside of writing?
Yeah, so my full-time employment, I'm the Assistant Vice President of Innovation and Improvement at Springboard Collaborative, which is a literacy-oriented nonprofit that's headquartered in Philly but nationally based. So we work with schools all around districts, really all around the country.
Awesome. Nice. Very cool. So, like I said, you guys, Mark had reached out, said that you guys had a book, and we started talking about different things. I'm curious, where did the connection take place between a student and someone working in the nonprofit industry? Like, how did that all come about? Because seems like there's some puzzle pieces that need to be put into place for this to all kind of connect and make sense.
Yeah, so I used to be a professor. That's part of where I first got my real love and passion for working with basically anybody age 14 to about 22, because I had a lot of dual enrolled students in the schools where I taught. And Grace's dad, who is also a former professor, and I happened to live on the same block. And we met and we're talking about, being recovering academics, and what we missed and didn't miss about the classroom. And I mentioned that I had been a writing professor, and he said, "Oh, my daughter is interested she's minoring in journalism. I bet she would want to talk to you." And so we ended up having a conversation. This is, quite sometime last year, having a conversation at a block party, actually. And in the midst of that conversation, Grace was talking about some of the things that she had found, moments that she'd found most inspiring and most frustrating in high school and in college. And the themes that she was talking about, without me having told her any of the research that I'm familiar with on adolescent motivation and positive youth development and any of those kinds of things, were just lining up perfectly with the exact same things that I've heard coming from the young people that I've worked with or had the privilege of working with other colleagues who are working with young people. The same themes come up over and over again. And I had already put together the idea for this book and knew that I wanted to start interviewing people. And I asked her, like, hey, can you be the first person that I interview? What you're talking about aligns perfectly with exactly this content that I think would really be helpful for any adults who care about people in this age range and are just baffled about, like, what is going on? How do I help them? They simultaneously feel really motivated by some things and totally demotivated at other moments and really deeply apathetic at some times. But then I see this spark that I want to nurture, and like, what do I do? How do I do that? And I think that this framework is really helpful. And Grace was wonderful and gracious, delightful person, and said sure. And what followed was like a very long conversation. We talked for like 2.5 hours, didn't we, Grace? It was something ridiculous. I'm surprised that my phone kept recording the whole time. And then talked further as I, shared the notes and I was like, do you want to do this with me? You want to be a journalist. And you were talking about the reason you want to be a journalist is because you want to help the communities that you care about. And that's the same purpose of this book. Like, do you want to do this project together? Because I think it would benefit from having a young, not just young people's voices being interviewed, but a young person helping to shape the way that we frame it, talk about it up front. And fortunately, she said yes. So so that's how, I don't know, Gracie, anything you want to add to that origin story there, but that's my take on it.
Our origin story, I love it. I don't have anything else to add. I think you pretty, like you hit it on the spot. I had really struggled a lot during my first year at Penn. Not first year, my first semester at Penn. Part of it was like finding the motivation to want to learn again, especially like after this pandemic. And then like also trying to figure out different strategies of learning again, and like figuring out how to learn, and just kind of navigating and adjusting to the pace and environment of Penn is it's a topic on its own. But that was part of the reason why I was so interested in doing this book, because I know that my peers were also struggling with this at other universities. And it wasn't just a me thing, it was definitely my generation after this pandemic. So
That's fantastic. I have to say, I really love it. And reading like the synopsis that you gave us too, it seems like there's a lot more, because when I look at it right now, like my oldest is 15 and he's doing okay. He's not exactly the most motivated person, but we're working with him. But it's still those kind of things where he does just get inexplicably unmotivated, just won't do an assignment and just leaves it and just does not come back to it. And just being kind of overwhelmed sometimes. He's in some AP courses and what have you, and he wants this for himself, and he wants this college career that he has in mind. He wants to be a veterinarian, and he knows what he needs to do, but then some days he just stops. It just loses whatever he had going forward. So, for me, I'm looking at it, and I talk with a couple other parents I know that have teenagers, and they talk about, my generation and probably the generation before me, which was the baby boomers, was a lot of, well, you're just a lazy teenager. You're just lazy. And it's really not that at all. And I've learned that so well but talking with other ones and talking about how COVID has, exhausted a lot of children. And I apologize to say children, I'm an old man. So, people in their 20s and younger to me, but also has kind of traumatized them and has just pushed them into a place. But from reading the synopsis, it's a lot more than just like right now in COVID, that this is kind of an ongoing thing. Yeah. And I'd like to learn a little bit more about that because of, what your view is on, say, education and our educational system and how that's causing issues.
Yeah, so the nonprofit before the one that I work at currently was focused on high school students primarily, and on the mindsets and skill sets that especially high school students who are in chronically under-resourced, systematically deprived school systems, neighborhoods, communities, right? The young people who had experienced the most amount of trauma from being across intergenerational poverty and all those kinds of things. And the effects that has on just shutting out. Oh no, did we lose Grace? Or just the video shut down. Okay. The effects that has on just diminishing your sense of what's possible, right? And this well preceded COVID. It has massive effects. And what that nonprofit did that really inspired me was why I gave up tenure. I'd been a tenured professor. I worked for them as a consultant, and I was so inspired by what they were doing and what I saw the impact being with young people that I was like, that's it, I'm out. This is what I want to go support. Is that they would put folks that they called dream directors into schools. And the job of those folks was just to be there to hold the space for a greater level of possibility. They would expose students to opportunities they'd never seen before. They would bring in speakers, and they would bring in political or activist opportunities, or they would bring them out to, arts encounters or other cultural encounters. And suddenly you would start seeing these young people who had no engagement, who thought school was useless, who thought their future had no shot at anything useful or interesting, and that they were just going to replicate exactly what they'd seen in the communities around them, and didn't have any sense of hope, suddenly start to have dreams. That's why we called them dream directors. And the whole idea was to provide people who could actually then support you. Like, okay, if you have this dream, if you want to become a veterinarian now that you're seeing that that's a possibility, or if you want to even just make this change in your school, then now you got to build the skills and the mindsets that it takes to persist over obstacles, to be able to figure out budgets, to be able to make project plans, all those types of both tactical and kind of more intangible things. But in order for any of that to happen at a foundational level, first, you have to have a relationship. You have to have authentic relationships within that context, or you're never going to feel enough safety to open up and even consider that there's some kind of potential or possibility or anything like that. Yeah. It has to have that safe space for that like baseline foundational need. And then you have to feel like that you can make choices that matter to you. You have to be able to feel like, well, if I make a choice, if I want to lean into doing something to help change my school environment, or to become a veterinarian, or to become a medical journalist, Grace, I'm stealing from you now, you have to believe that you actually, your choices will allow you to go in that direction. And then you have to believe that you either have the skills you need to do that, or that you're capable of building them. And if you don't have those three things happening in any context that you're in, inside school or outside of school, you're not going to be able to sustain motivation. The kind of extrinsic motivation that is like, I'm trying to avoid this punishment, or, oh, I want to get this reward, will only last for really short periods of time. And it's really exhausting and taxing to our bodies and our minds. And so to me, the effect of COVID, I look at all of this positive youth development stuff that I was involved in well before COVID, and learning about through both direct research and reading all kinds of secondary research. And then you look at the impact of COVID and you go, of course it's way worse now. Of course it is, because what you just did was systematically deprive people from access to their authentic relationships, because now the way that everybody could engage was over screens. Yeah. Then you decrease their sense that they could have skills, because suddenly we all needed to learn a whole new set of skills about how to do all this stuff through screens. And you decreased any sense that you were able to make meaningful choices, because suddenly everything was just this reactionary place. And you massively increase the amount of stress, which means that any of that ability of extrinsic motivators, either fear-based or reward-based, to motivate you just doesn't, it's like, it would be like if somebody goes, oh, I'll give you $100 if you come, and I'm dead ass tired because my 4-year-old has had me up for all night for 3 nights in a row. I don't care how much I would love that $100. You're not going to get me off the couch. I'm exhausted. I'm depleted. There's nothing left for me to go after that kind of motivation for. It has to be things that fill the bucket. Well, I just went on a little bit of a rant. So
no, you're fine. It was great. That was fantastic. No. Well, and you can feel the passion, which is what it's obviously you changed careers because of this passion you have for it. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, Brock. I'm sorry, but I love it, Becca. It was awesome.
Well, I was just going to say, like, it's great, everything that you're saying, because it's bringing a lot of just like insight into the way that you're going about just researching these things. Like, you're putting all the pieces together. But it brings out a question for me is like, this is more of a question towards Grace, really, because I'm kind of curious, like, out of what Becca is talking about, and also about just the research that you guys have been doing together, like, one, what would be like your top takeaways from what you're seeing out of that? And then how is those things that you're getting, like, how's that like influence the way that you think about education, whether it be like your past education or your present education? And then I'll just throw in a third little one here for you. But with that all connected, how do you see those things coming together to be able to touch and talk to parents who are trying to figure out how to get their kids to be motivated, or even how to like just meet them in their motivation? I know that's a lot. If you have to ask me as we're going along, be like, I didn't remember any of those things. Like, just stop me. Like, Brock, like, can you tell me what that was? I'm
one time.
I'm a horrible interviewer when it comes to just throwing questions out like that.
No. I think this is great. I have to say though, I'm so used to being on the other side asking questions. So it's a little weird responding to the questions and having to come up with answers on the fly. But I think some of my major takeaways from the interviews that we've done and from just like working on the book, it's really just confirmed everything that I have understood about my education, the education system, and the flaws of the education system. So many. And while I'm super grateful for my education from Maryland and also the school that I'm at right now, I'm so grateful. There are a lot of flaws, and a lot of those flaws are not only systemic, but also personal in how we treat young people and how we treat like our generation. Similar to what Becca had said earlier, I just always feel inspired by my peers who are doing similar things or have done similar things that I have done in previous years. Wow, major takeaways. I think the biggest takeaway is something that I have always known, and it's that we need to have this intergenerational connection. I feel like in recent years, my generation has maybe not been the kindest to baby boomers and those who are older than us. But at the same time, it's also the same reaction that baby boomers have for us, right? And I just think that there's just so much wisdom from previous generations, and also wisdom from my generation. You know, our generations are just so vastly different in how we communicate, but also how we view the world, how we view politics, how we view like social issues. It's just such an interesting progression. And I just think that it's super important to be able to share that information. That legacy knowledge is what my dad would call it, between our generations, and be able to kind of build upon that wisdom. It can only get better, hopefully, right? So those are kind of the major takeaways. There are a couple other questions. Sorry, could you repeat them?
No, yeah, totally. So based on that, how has that like influenced, you're talking about a little bit of actually like how it influences like the education side of things for you, but like what do you want from the writings that you and Becca are putting together for parents to be able to take that? Like what's kind of like the goal or the target with talking to parents about this subject?
Yeah, I would hope that parents and adults would just be more empathetic to our generation. I think I've said this before, but I'll say it again, that there are just so many distractions, and just so many different factors that impact my generation. Not only technology is a huge thing, but also, like I said, how we communicate, and how we see ourselves, how we see others. So I just hope that it's just such a vague phrasing of words, but I just hope that parents and teachers would be able to empathize with the things that we're going through, and hopefully we'll be able to engage with us in helping us develop like our way of thinking about the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fantastic. Fantastic.
I think too, like you're talking about like technology and communication and stuff, and it is so vastly different. I mean, I know like when I was coming into college, the internet kind of had just sort of like kicked into gear. Like I had just gotten like my first email address and stuff like that. And it's like, you know, and it's like now, like, I mean, yeah, I'm 42 and I got my first email address when I was like 16. So like 1996. So it's kind of weird how like that's all sort of played out. But I say all that just from the standpoint of, you know, when you talk to younger people, sometimes a lot of older people like joking, and they're like, you have no idea what it was like to not be able to like know, like what the weather was like without, checking a newspaper or something, or, if you wanted to find out if somebody was home or whatever, like you couldn't just text them, like you had to call, and sometimes you got a busy tone or whatever. And you have like the jokes of all the different, like, this is what the internet sounded like when you like signed on, that kind of idea. And it's like, you don't have any of that anymore. It's like you're immediately connected and stuff. And so there are these like vast disconnects with how that sort of is and things. But I think on the whole, there are times where I look at the younger generation and the things that they are juggling with technology, and I'm a part of that mindset. It's so funny because like I'm serious, like for 42, like I am very much involved in a lot of social media, doing all this different stuff. And when I run up beside someone who's
TikTok
younger,
dances.
Shut up. Do not do TikTok dances. There's more going on TikTok than dances, I tell you.
I agree.
Oh my goodness.
There is.
He
anyway,
gives me
sorry.
so much crap about it. No, it's okay. But seriously though, like the thing with it is like you guys are you're multitasking all these different like other things coming at you, and it just seems like this floodgate. And so as far as where we're like, oh, like they're so crazy, like all these different things, like at the same time, it's like I envy you for the fact that it seems like the younger generation has just grabbed onto this idea of like, I can do multiple things at once. Like you see some people who are younger, like they're watching TV, listening to music, and like on their phone all at the same time. And you get somebody who's like, are you watching that? And like, yeah, I'm watching it. And I'm also saying, like, my wife and I are really bad at that actually, even though we're older, but still, yeah, I mean, that to me, it's just all wrapped up into kind of the stuff you're talking about, is this idea of having to sort of switch the mind as to what's going on. And with that though, like motivation is definitely something that can not only get after the younger generation. As I was like reading through like just the different excerpts and things that you had sent over to us, I battle with motivation. I mean, there are lots of things that I want to do. There are things that I am passionate about, and there are times I'll get going with it and it just, the well dries up real quick. Yeah. And so that's something that happens even later on in life with stuff. But with the fact that you are pre-med and just getting started with your college life and very much young adult life, how do you come out of that dry well? What are you doing when you feel like you're not motivated with the things that you'd like to be doing?
Yeah. Oh my. What a heavy topic.
Always get one good one in.
I actually want to kind of address some of the things that you had said earlier. First, I think you are more active on social media than I am. I currently actually have no social media. So I think you're winning in that area. But you touched on something that made me think about a lot of the things that my generation is juggling with, right? And I would argue that if you see me looking down, I'm like writing notes so I don't forget.
You're a journalist.
Yeah, you're a journalist. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
And as a writer, or a wannabe writer at least, I applaud you. I'm like, oh look, a pen and paper. That's awesome. So yeah, go for it.
I would argue that we have always had to deal with a lot of these issues of racism, misogyny, body issues. It's just a lot more heightened now with technology. There's TikTok. You talk about TikTok. There's always so much information and just like decomposing like these dense ideas of like like the female gaze or like male gaze, like different social issues that you normally wouldn't hear about those things on the news or any of those outlets. So I just kind of those were kind of the thoughts that were coming in my head when you were speaking. Wow, in terms of bouncing back, yeah, that is something that I think about often, especially now. It's really hard. It's really difficult. And I say this with a smile on my face because I know that it's worth it. I think in high school it was much easier because you knew what the end goal was. Now for me, sometimes it can be really difficult to keep that in mind, especially with, like you said, there's just so many, we're just bombarded with so many things, especially at Penn. There's just so many pressures that are just building upon you, either external or internal. So like I'll say this, like I just got my grade back from my chem midterm that I had like last Monday, and I did really well on it based on my previous grades from last semester. And I was really proud of it this morning. And then I came to class and I started hearing other people talk about their grades, and their grades were so much better than mine. And then after class, I just felt so discouraged. And I just had to remember that it can be really hard to bounce back. It can be really hard to not get discouraged and feel like you are incapable of succeeding, or whatever your definition of success may be. But I think a lot of the times that what helps me is just finding progress in another area and building that confidence. Sometimes I may need to take a break from chem or whatever subject that might be and work on something that motivates me or encourages me a bit more. So like not sometimes, I will switch to working on the book, or I'll switch to working on something for my health and societies class, something that is a little bit more enjoyable and not as dense as chemistry. But that's just an example for myself. But I think those are kind of things that help me when it's hard to bounce back. I think also just talking to my dad, and it's just the thing, like that intergenerational wisdom, talking to my dad really helps. And he's like really close by, and he really is just like a phone call away. So a lot of the times he's able to give me that encouragement to keep going.
That's awesome. So real quick, and I'm going to throw it to Danny and let him ask some questions too. But I have to say, like, just the way you talk about your dad and reaction, like, no joke, just to kind of give you a little flash forward to the future for things. But honestly, like as parents, like that's the one thing that all of us sort of like hold really hard, like really tight in our heart, is that we will have that kind of close-knit relationship with our kids as they move on through life. And it changes, I mean, like when you're in the house, like we're watching over and you're protecting. When you leave the house, it's more of a like, okay, we're in an advisory type role type thing. And it's like, for us, it's like our heart just like wells and bursts every time you call up and they're like, hey, like, I just need to ask you this, or I just want to tell you this. And you're like, oh my gosh. So, although your dad might not tell you that, honestly, that's what's going on with him. And I see Becca's face lighting up too. And so I can tell she's in agreement as well. But I just wanted you to know that, like, it's great to hear you to talk about your dad like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I talk to my dad every day, every morning, every evening.
Hey, I'm 42 and I still talk to my parents almost on a regular basis as well. So I understand that connection.
Yeah, it is fantastic. And you can tell too with who you are now in college and being an adult and out on your own. And we don't look at you and go, well, this is somebody's child. This is just another adult out there making their way through the world. But you can absolutely tell when you talk about not only your relationship, but also just the way you look at life, that there's somebody there that's been giving you this guidance, and this reliance that you can, kind of lean on them and like, okay, this is getting a little bit of a struggle. And this is that person. And it's wonderful that it's your parent and that it's your dad. And I want to make note of a wonderful thing that you said, and being that you're looking to be a medical journalist and journalist in general, you did very well, I think, for all of the verbiage that you used and the words that you used, even though it was kind of extemporaneous and spur of the moment. I think you did great, just for what that's worth. Because one of the things you said is, and it's very inspiring to me, is the wisdom of your generation. And then the wisdom of older generations, whichever generations that might be. We have the typical, memes mindset of boomers versus millennials kind of thing. And that's not really what we're looking at necessarily, but the fact that all of them have their own wisdom. all of them have their own thing that they are better at or more experienced at. And I love that you brought that up too, because it's for both sides of that equation, is being able to look at the younger generation. Because a lot of times we do, we're going, you're just a kid. What do you know? No, that's not at all the reality of it, because you're an adult. You're out on your own. I know you call your dad a lot. That's fantastic, but you're doing all of this. You're living your life, and you're the adult in this situation, and you're writing a book, and that's just awesome in itself. But then it's a book that's going to help build empathy towards the stories of other young adults and children in high school that are going to need that someone to look at them and say, well, why are they doing this? Oh, it's because they're dealing with this, and this in our school systems. This is going on. And I applaud you really for everything that you've said, but that's definitely the wisdom of the generations has really touched me personally. So
I just want to share in relation to this. So Grace asked one of this is a standard interview question, but it was Grace who came up with it. So I want to give Grace the extra credit there of asking the question of what is something you wish of, the young folks we interview, what is something you wish your teachers or parents knew about you or your peers? And one of the answers from one of the students who really inspired me. So first he, kind of comically said, shit's hard right now, y'all. Right. But then he said, here's the thing. Student problems are just adult problems for younger people. The issues and problems adults face and that students face are the same. It gives the same anxiety and stress to students as it does adults. Just because they're young doesn't mean they aren't aware and they aren't engaged and that they aren't facing really serious issues in their day-to-day lives. So acknowledging that and understanding that students have their own lives, thoughts, and opinions, and are their own people and deserve to be treated with respect and empathy. And it doesn't go away just because they're young. A lot of them do bring a lot of intelligence and wisdom and do care a lot about their education, whether they show it or not. At the end of the day, it's hard not to care about something you're spending 40 hours a week or more doing. So coming from a place of empathy and wanting to hear students out that you would give the same way you would give to anyone else is really critical. It's your step zero to fixing a lot of the problems you see in education and understanding more about what's happening. Oftentimes parents might feel disconnected from their kids, and a lot of teachers feel similarly, but just working with them first and coming from a place of not wanting to lecture or immediately make change and fix it, but a place to really hear them out and understand. Talk to them, ask what they're thinking about and worried about, what they're spending their time doing, why they're spending their time on that, and if they do care. Because oftentimes when students say they don't care, they actually do care a lot. It's just not about the thing they think you're asking about.
Wow.
And it just really struck me. I mean, this is an 18-year-old, y'all. He's not even graduated high school yet.
Yeah.
And it just really struck me. I bolded it. That's why I could re-access it so quickly. Yeah. Because I think especially that point of like, when someone says, I don't care, apathy is a very natural and actually pretty useful defense mechanism against being disempowered, right? If you are systematically deprived of meaningful choices all the time, one of the students we talked about, we asked her the most engaging moment. And actually the first thing that came to mind was the first time she got in a class and the adult leading that class said, you all don't have to ask me. If you need to go to the bathroom, just go to the bathroom. Mm. Think about that for a second, right? Think about the agency over our bodies and how, as 40-something-year-olds, like all of us except for Grace are, how humiliating and dehumanizing it would be if we had to ask someone every time. If in my work day, I'd be in a problem because having birthed 2 children, I got to run to the bathroom about every hour. That'd be a real problem for me, right? Yeah. If I had to make that visible, if I had to ask permission. And so if we think about the level of autonomy that we take for granted and that students in school are consistently stripped of without even thinking about it, without even thinking about why we're doing it and what the effects are. And the effect that has of like, I feel like we have this cultural narrative just like, oh, teenagers, they're just whatever about things, or they just don't care, or they're so apathetic. And it's this very judgy kind of narrative rather than stopping to be like, why? Why would a large swath of people for a certain period of time in their lives all consistently become apathetic? Is it possible that there's something going on that's not just, hormones, right? That like, right. That would drive that apathy. And so when you're asking before of like, what do you hope parents get out of this? What I hope I get out of this as a parent who will have a teenager soon, and as an aunt who has had a number of teenage nieces and nephews that are now adults, is that reminder of how easy it is to only occupy your own position and be like, well, I'm clear on what you should be doing, and I'm clear on what would make your life better. And this has been my job as your parent, is to make sure that your life was safe and protected and getting better, et cetera, when you're younger, and to not make that pivot. That's what I'm hoping it will do. Honestly, if I'm like, the part of me that's writing it for myself is like my own reminder that in a couple years, when my kid hits high school, I want to make sure that I am engaging with him in a way that is, first, let me listen and seek to understand, rather than first, let me bring my agenda to this conversation about what you should be doing with your life and how you should be feeling and what you should be doing about it. So anyways.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly,
awesome.
I was like, what you're talking about is something that I was very much like eye open to when everything happened with George Floyd and the Black Lives Movement really like bursted onto the scene here in this little area where I live. That whole movement was actually like spurred on by high school kids here in the area. And oh my goodness, I went to a rally. I went just to take photographs. Like I just wanted to see what was going on and just take photographs and just, be there in the moment. But man, these kids got up and just started talking in ways I was like, these aren't kids. Like these are adults. Like the way they're talking, the way they're presenting themselves. I was just like, the title of your book, can you help me give it? It's like they were doing that. Like they were giving everybody a reason to care about what was going on. And it was amazing to see this rally of people that came around. And you get certain people are like, oh, like they're young, what do they know? And other people turn around and be like, are you listening to them? Like, are you actually listening to what they're saying? Because if you're not, like, you're completely missing the point. Like, these are not just kids that are just trying to get attention for themselves. Like they're actually sharing what they experience, and they're telling you what they're experiencing right here in our town. Like open your eyes type of deal. It's like, so I completely agree. Like it's amazing, like the things that you're talking about there with the stories. I am curious though, like, so and you kind of you started to talk about it a little bit, but besides the story of the young man that you had talked about, like what other like inspiring stories are you hearing from young people while you go through and research this book?
Yeah, there's a lot, and I think I'm glad you're editing, because maybe you can edit this in retrospect. Trying to think it through out loud is tricky for me. There's like a weird paradox, right? So referenced in the piece that I sent you, and it's part of what we're trying to navigate in the book, that sort of like high achievement overwhelm and disengagement apathy are, from what I'm seeing, and Grace, I'm curious if you see the same way, two sides of actually the same coin. It's not like here's the high achieving students over here and here's the disengaged apathetic students over here. It's actually two different reactions to the same set of circumstances, right? So talking with the student who I was quoting a moment ago, basically he is in a dual enrolled program where he's simultaneously getting the first 2 years of his college degree done while finishing up his high school degree. And the reason that he's doing that is because he was so bored in his first year of high school that he just started going, I know I'm not going to be able to deal with this. I know that I can't stay in this environment where I don't have any meaningful choices and I can't do any of the things that I care about. And so sought in that kind of like high achieving sort of way, like what's another option I can go do in order to get out of this? And then other students whose stories I hear and talk with, or hear my colleagues who are working with them talk with and share, it's a like, I don't see any other options, so I'm going to shut down. I'm going to be apathetic. I'm going to cheat to get the grades that I need to, because all of this is meaningless and stupid. And why should I waste my time? Right. And it's like a whole different perspective to flip from what's wrong with you that you would cheat to why would you cheat? Why is it so valueless, the learning that you might be doing, that cheating is the more appealing option, right? Like it's two different reactions to the same set of circumstances of, I don't see where this is meaningful for me. I don't see where this is relevant. I don't see a reason for me to be here and care because there's not any people here who care about me. And none of this learning applies to anything that I care about for later on in my life. And you're not giving me any meaningful choices. So I'm checking out. Or the high achieving response is, well, all of that, okay, I'm going to find an extra thing I can put on top of this in order to make it meaningful. And so, Grace, I would love if you wanted to talk about, I don't want to reference people's first names since we haven't checked of who wants to be anonymous versus who not. But the young woman we talked to who talked about the Minority Scholars Program, right? And I view her as being sort of a like, well, this is not enough in and of its own. High school is not enough to be engaging for me. So I'm going to add something to it, right? That then became very engaging. And lots of what she shared was really inspiring. And I wondered if you wanted to share some about that.
Yeah, so yes, a lot of what she shared was deeply inspiring. She was a part of this program for students of color, and part of what they did in this program was create professional development meetings and trainings for teachers, so they can equip them and teach them how to talk about race and be comfortable talking about race in the classroom. And so it was completely student-led. The sponsors of the program allowed them to come up with these different activities and lead different conversations. And she talked at length about how it was empowering to her to be able to shape the minds of the adults that will be teaching her, or even just adults that will be teaching her generation. And the ability to be able to like change someone's mind who may not have been empathetic towards students of color previously. So yeah, just a little quick synopsis of what her experience was with the program.
And how many people have you already? How many people have you already interviewed, and are there more to be interviewed, or kind of what's going on with the process of the book? Where's that at?
Yeah, there are more to be interviewed. We have sketched out. So what you saw in the book proposal was based on the common narratives that had already arisen from experiences that I and some of my colleagues who've been working with young people for a couple decades have seen, especially in recent years. And now what we're doing is going back and actually engaging in direct, more in-depth conversations with young people who want to engage in those conversations. So if anybody knows a young person in high school or college who's like, I would really love to be interviewed about either the reasons that I find this whole thing freaking miserable or what I've done in order to make it not miserable, either of those types of stories I think are really powerful, and we are looking to add a few more. So thank you for asking that, and I certainly appreciate the opportunity to get that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Plug out there in case there's anybody else who wants to be part of it.
That's what I was thinking. If there's an email address or something that we can post in the show notes to where somebody can reach out to you guys and make that interview happen, definitely send it to us, so that way we can help you along with that, because we have plenty of dads that have kids who are older and right. Like Danny was saying, his is 15. So I mean, there's lots of those. I was thinking of Al Watts' son Miles, who actually presented at Home Dad Con this year, and he's getting ready to go off to college here pretty soon. So he might be somebody that might be interested in it as well. But we really appreciate getting to talk to you about this. I'm excited for when the book comes out, and honestly, when it does come out, like, we'll have to have you back on so that we can talk more about it and really get it pushed out there for you. And we'll stay in contact, because I definitely want to know when that's going to happen, because like I said, one, I love the title. Two, the topic is on point with everything that's going on here, and I really wish the best for you all for the research you're doing, and hopefully a publisher catches wind of this and grabs you guys up, because it's I think it's just a topic that up until the point where it came in front of us, I never really had even thought about it. So since then, I think that it's something where it's like, man, there are other people who are going to feel the same way. Like, I never thought about that. And then they're going to hear this, and hopefully it's going to, jaw them in a way that's open their eyes to some other things going on. So, yeah.
That's what we found. So I really appreciate hearing that as well. And I realized that quickly, just in case you want to weave it back in, you should explain the title, where that came from, because it's not my words or Grace's words. It comes from a student who was in a class of one of the colleagues that I was talking about, where she was trying to teach executive functioning skills. And the students just were not, they were students who wanted to get better, right? That whole motivation piece. And she wasn't incorporating motivation into the explicit conversation. And she's like, you guys say you want to get better at succeeding in your classes, but you're not practicing any of these skills I'm teaching you. Okay, what's going on? What is it you want? And she asked all of them to write it down anonymously and hand it in. And what was on one of the students' papers, she said, actually, a lot of them had different variations of it, but this one put it the most succinctly and clearly: can you help me give a shit? I would like to give a shit about school, but I just don't, and I don't know how to. And it just really struck me when she shared that story with me. I was like, that's the book. So that was the original inspiration for the book. I was like, that's the book that we need to write, actually, is that. Is inspired by that exact thing of like, I'd like to, but why don't I, and what can I do about it? And when you realize why you don't, why it's so hard to feel motivated, it actually helps provide a lot of the answers of what to do, both systemically for people that want to make systemic change, but also individually for what you can do, within your own just individual life.
That's great. Definitely. Well, hey, thank you very much for coming on the show today. And like I said, stay in contact with us, because we want to know and see more as it comes along the line. Grace, good luck to you as you continue on with your semester. Hope everything ends well for you as things move along for you with pre-med. I know that can get pretty intense. I have friends who are in the medical field, so
and tell your dad we're proud of him.
Yeah,
for what that's worth. Just tell him. Some two old men on some podcast he'll never hear. I'm proud of him.
She can just send this to him, and then
he'll hear this one for sure. Yeah, he should hear this one for sure, because then he'll be proud. Yeah,
be like, man, I got to know those guys. All right. Well, hey, thanks so much, and y'all have a great one. And we'll talk to everybody again next week.
Great.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.